Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this is my long-term review of the RSeat Formula V2. It's been 3 months since I bought it and I put in a lot of hours. So I got to know about a lot of the intricacies, nuances, and the things that you really like and learn to appreciate, but also some of the things you grow to hate about the RSeat. So let me show you around. So the first thing I want to tell you about RSeat is that its customer service is very lacking. So if you need a company or want a company that has good customer service, don't buy an RSeat product. So as you may have seen in my previous video, my product came defective. The center rail was bent in such a way where I couldn't actually put it together. I reached out to RSeat, they immediately responded and they told me, hey, we're gonna replace it for you. And then it's radio silence for the next month. So they didn't do anything until I went to American Express and disputed my charge. And then they finally reached out to me and say, hey, can you go and clear the dispute because we're going to send you one. And I didn't just clear the dispute until they actually did, because it took a long time even after that. On RSeat's website, you can actually find a WhatsApp phone number, an email address, and even a web form for you to submit a warranty request. But don't be tricked by that, because they don't respond to any of those. And I checked my spam many times. It's not in spam. And that web form doesn't do anything. Nor does the online chat. If you monitor that website, it's never online. So it's a bit of a con that they tell you there's going to be a 3-year warranty. Don't expect to claim it. And it seems like if you go online, the stories are coming out about how RSeat is a little bit of a shady company. It seems like there are a lot of stories about people having very similar experience. I think there were a couple people who actually commented on my video as well, having very similar experiences where they would reach out, get the runaround, and basically get told, hey, we'll solve it for you, and then just disappear on you. So considering the amount of money that you're spending on an RSeat product, there are better options, and it's sometimes a bit of a lottery. If you get all the parts or if you get something undamaged, then hey, it's decent. But given the amount of money that you're spending, there might actually be better options. So now that we got the biggest issue out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the product itself. I think the product is not very well designed in some areas. For example, there are bolts here, here, and here, and here. These are where all of these bolts are really difficult to access with an Allen key. So if you need to move anything or adjust, or actually even put it together in the first place, it is so difficult for you to do it. Your Allen key doesn't really fit, so you sort of put in an edge of an Allen key and torque it a little bit, and guess what? That means it's not tight enough, and that means that RSeat will flex. So you actually have to spend considerable amounts of time just trying to put it together just so that it doesn't flex. It's just poorly designed, because why would you use something that requires an Allen key in a spot where it doesn't fit an Allen key? Like, whoever designed it doesn't really, they probably never had to put it together. I mean, they wouldn't design it this way. So the third thing I want to tell you about is sort of related to the last one, and because the construction or the assembly requires a lot of Allen keys, even the adjustments are really difficult to make, because every time you make an adjustment, it requires you to go and loosen this Allen key, bolt, using an Allen key, and you would loosen it, and it's so hard to loosen because it's so hard to fit an Allen key in there. And you loosen it. You take 15 minutes, finally loosening it. You move it a little bit and try to hold it so that it doesn't move, and you tighten it back up again. And you jump in to try it. And you realize, oh, it's not good enough. Maybe the pedal needs to be further away. Well, guess what? You gotta go do that again. So it could easily be hours before you can actually find the right seating position, the right angle for your steering wheel, the right pedal position. So there are too many adjustments that requires an Allen key and removing bolts and securing bolts that honestly it's not that hard to create a rail system. So I don't know why they only did it for the seat and none of the other adjustments. Another thing I wanted to tell you about is that the pedal plate actually flexes quite a bit. And it's because of the rail system that they use. They use two smooth rails where they require 4 bolts, 2 on each side, to tighten against the edge of the rail. As you can see here, there are no actual discrete holes where the bolts actually go into and lock. Whereas if you look at some of the other spots here, there are very distinct spots where the bolt will go in and wouldn't slide up or down or like along the axis of the rail. And for some reason, the place where it needs the least flexing, because your pedals are very sensitive and chances are your legs are putting in dozens of pounds, if not dozens of kilograms. Somehow they chose a smooth rail where it would actually flex. And to compound that, the Allen keys again mean that they don't really fit the back bolts here, so you can't really tighten them that well. So it sort of compounds the problem. Not only is it a bad design when it comes to using a smooth rail, but you can't really tighten them so that you can't even use the smooth rail to its full advantage to grip the actual rail. So I think it could be better designed. Maybe one day they'll have an RSeat Formula V3 where they'll actually have distinct holes, or maybe better yet, a sliding rail. Like, why are we using Allen bolts? And then there's the butt kicker mount here. I've actually stopped using the butt kicker. It vibrates the entire seat to the point where I'm getting a really bad headache. So I actually returned the butt kicker. And this is sort of the mount that goes on it. And part of the reason why it vibrates too much, it's vibrating, giving a bit of haptic feedback. It literally shakes the entire RC cockpit. I think part of it is that the cockpit is not very tight, and there's a lot of room for it to rattle, and it just creates this awful noise where it just sounds like a metal screeching, and it's nasty. And if you look at the reason why, it's because the bolts underneath are impossible to secure. So if you lock in your butt kicker, the butt kicker is designed with a clamp, and the clamp is in such a way where it's angled downward. So again, the butt kicker mount is so low that it hits the ground. You sort of have to lift up the entire RC cockpit just to be able to secure that bolt. And it's impossible to do it the other way around, where if you flip it around, because the RC mount is so close to the seat. So again, you can't fit in an Allen key. So I find that these designs they just look pretty. They don't really function that well. Onto the wheelbase, I find that it's a little bit too high. The only way to actually lower it is also change the angle, which is a completely different thing. You don't want something that's low simply because it's angled towards your stomach. Like you want it to be low so that it would still be facing you, but you don't want to change the pitch, right? You want to lower the entire height of the wheelbase and not just angle the wheel towards your pelvis. So it's quite awkward. I don't know who designed it. I think it's an oversight that you can't lower on both sides, both the front and the back of the wheelbase. And there are also these couple little rails at the bottom here that they are just so painful for your knees. And for someone to design a Formula seat with these rails that are right up against your knees, it's just fundamentally stupid. You can't use clutch pedals properly unless you have knee pads. And these hurt, so I ended up actually putting some foam onto the piece of metal here. And finally, I want to tell you a little bit about the monitor stand. It's supposed to be a matching monitor stand, the S3M, and it's not very good because I think it's designed for other seats that are not the Formula seats, probably the taller one, the GT style or rally style where you sit upright. And I find that the lowest setting on the monitor is not low enough, and you have to angle it downwards so that you can see from the Formula seat. Well, angling downwards, again, is like the wheelbase, is not the same as lowering it. I think it's, again, a cost saving for them to try and design something that works for everything, and ended up being just a compromise. And the height of where the monitor goes is simultaneously too high and too low. And let me explain. The monitor is too high because it needs to basically angle down for you to see it. So you're basically looking up when you're sitting in the Formula seat. The monitor is simultaneously too low because it cannot fit over the wheelbase. So some of these things I feel like someone should be thinking about. If you're designing an RSeat Formula cockpit, you should be able to lower the wheelbase enough so that you're at basically face level with your face, and then be able to fit a monitor as close to the wheel as possible. But I can't because the wheelbase is in the way. So whoever designed this cockpit never thought about, hey, someone's gonna mount a wheel there. I think independently, if you just look at the wheel, if you just look at the cockpit, it looks perfectly fine. But the moment you mount a wheelbase, it's too high, right, for the monitor. It's bizarre. Another thing I want to mention is that if you want to add a shifter to your cockpit, it's going to be difficult as well. If you go to the RSeat website, it says that their accessory only fits these types of shifters, but not the Fanatec one. Which means if you want a Fanatec one, you might have to come up with a bit of a custom solution. Now, if you look at the side of this RSeat, it actually doesn't have very many areas where you can put a bolt in or screw some holes into. So you might actually have to just do drilling and just drill some holes and go to Home Depot and find some metal plates and drill those holes and make a very custom mounting plate, because otherwise there's nowhere to put this shifter. And the RSeat website doesn't actually have really good photos of what their solution looks like to see if you might be able to put the Fanatec shifter anyway. And depending on where they place it, and I'm looking at this picture, it looks like it might actually go over this center rail where the wheelbase goes. And if it is, wouldn't the shifter be really, really high up? Again, it looks like it's designed for someone who's using the normal GT or the rally style seat. And if you ever need a shifter, don't get the Formula seat. That sounds like a bad design to be able to sell you an accessory where, hey, you can't really use it, or it's going to be really awkward. In fact, when you're ordering it, you don't know what you're ordering because the pictures don't really tell you. But give us your money anyway, and we might ship it to you. That sounds like a horrible business practice. So that's it for now. Thank you so much. If you have an RSeat product or have dealt with them at all, let me know what your experience. Please comment below. I think in the future, personally, I will probably buy another product. Whenever I feel like it's time for an upgrade, I might actually get another sim rig and not an RSeat anymore. But let me know what you think. And if you found this video helpful, please hit like. And if you are new to this channel, please subscribe. You might see a lot more things. I would enjoy it.